Welcome aboard. I'm Ted Everingham, and this is Great Lakes Log from WMTV at the Grosse Pointe War Memorial. This is a big day for us. We have 4 guests, not the usual 1 or 2 or 3. And they're 2 dads and 2 daughters. And they went cruising together in the North Channel. Not once, but twice. Let me introduce the group from left to right. Olivia, welcome. You're a junior at South. And Maren Prophit, sophomore at South.
Yes.
Maren's dad, Tim, who
Hello.
I've known longer than either of us will admit.
Many years.
And Todd Jones, Olivia's dad. And I said earlier, I can remember you dropping off Olivia at preschool, at nursery school a long time ago. You went cruising in the North Channel for, what, a week, 10 days?
9 days.
9 days, something like that. It was 2009, the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Whose idea was this? I think I know.
Well, I guess it was my idea, but it was inspired by hearing guys my age finally reminisce about family vacations they took when they were kids to the North Channel, and I just acquired the current Fast Tango, which is a North American 40 sailed in 1978. It has furniture in it, and Maren was 12 at the time, and I thought it'd be a fun trip to take, and Todd and I have known each other for years. We're very good friends. Olivia and Maren are close in age, and we thought it'd be a good daddy-daughter experience.
So you turned to Todd when I've got this great idea, and he said,
I'm all for it. I've heard so much about it from numerous people and wanted to get there myself. And
the part that surprised me is not so much with you, Tim, because I remember when you started sailing, you were a young adult. You'd been in the North Channel some 20 years before, but Todd, you had never been.
Correct.
And you're in a family that's synonymous sailing.
Yeah, born sailing.
Yeah.
Just never made the time, and
Well,
my parents weren't really cruisers, mostly racing, and wanted.
Okay, and girls, what did you think about the idea, Maren?
I thought it was going to be fun, and it turned out to be, it was kind of apprehensive thinking about spending that much time on a boat, but it was still a lot of fun in the end.
And Olivia, what did you think about all this?
I was kind of skeptical at first. I don't know, it just seemed like a really long time to be away from home and not having, like necessities, I guess.
A little bit cooped up.
Yeah, for sure, but it was a really great experience, so.
You're glad you did. Well, you went again. It must have been a good experience. But, Tim, tell us a little about Fast Tango. This isn't a luxury cruising boat by any means.
Well, compared to some modern race boats, actually it is. But it's a 40-foot boat. It was built in 1978. It's got 6 bunks in it right now. There's space for a forward bunk, which we didn't use because I don't race with it because of the weight, and we didn't need it, so we use that for sail storage, gear storage. So everybody had their own bunk. There's the table that came with the boat. I have no idea where it is. I don't own it. And so we used a beer cooler as a table. And there's a fairly large cockpit, so when the weather's nice, we sat outside and ate. And there was a bathroom. There was a holding tank. We have 2 propane burners, the big one for food and the small one for coffee. And as I recall, we started this trip right after the baby Mackinac race, and so we had all the race gear on the boat, and we tried not to carry extra weight, and we had 1 saucepan to use for cooking, and so the night we had grilled ham and cheese sandwiches. We had to do them one at a time. But hey, everybody got fed.
And Maren's rolling her eyes about that.
Well, I was saying, yeah, definitely the first year was a bit more challenging, especially with what we had to eat. Our diet consisted of Rice Krispies and sandwiches.
Rice Krispie snacks.
Yeah, but the point is, Fast Tango is not a luxury boat.
No.
Not the kind that everyone would go on.
Nope.
All right. It's possible people are watching and don't really know what we're talking when we talk about the North Channel. Some of the best, probably the best cruising waters in all of North America, but where is the North Channel?
Here's the map. Okay, so here's Michigan, and then you've got a row of islands up here. You got Drummond Island, Manitoulin Island, I'm sure I'm missing a couple. North of that is the North Channel. It's south of the Canadian mainland and north of the islands, north of Lake Huron, and it's between Mackinac Island. Mackinac Island is to the west, and Georgian Bay is to the east.
Right, and it's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous.
You left after the Mackinac race in 2009, so you leave from Mackinac Island. You get racing stuff off the boat.
Right.
Load these other 3 people, and you head out.
Right.
What's the itinerary? What are the must-sees when you left that first year?
Well, first I would advise everybody to plan their trip so that they check in with the Canadian government properly. We didn't do that the first time, and it worked out fine. But typically, what we like to do is either to detour or to one of the little islands if you don't want to pay for the dock and everything. But detour is a nice stop. It's at the easternmost tip of the Upper Peninsula. It's still the United States. They've got showers. They've got grocery shopping. They've in town. They both serve hot food late at night. And so you get to detour, and that way you can provision up, you can go grocery shopping and stock up again. We're coming from a Mackinac race where typically all we have left is Twizzlers and Rice Krispie snacks. Then your choices from there are either to head northeast to a place called Tilton Beach, which is on St. Joseph's Island, or you can head due east to Meldrum Bay to check in. I prefer to go to St. Joseph's because if you go to Meldrum Bay, you kind of miss a part of the North Channel called the Whale's Back, which is the prettiest part of the prettiest cruising waters around, and you don't want to miss the Whale's Back.
Okay. So you leave Mackinac Island. You're able to sail? You motor sail?
We motor sail.
So how far is that?
What was it, 32 miles?
It's far.
So
A couple
5, 6 hours.
6
yeah, you're there 5, 6 hours. You get there before dark.
Depends what time we leave, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So first night is where?
Detour.
And you just stay on the boat, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you getting over your apprehension by that point, Olivia?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool up there by then, and there were showers, so that was nice.
It wasn't too primitive yet.
Not yet.
All right. So you have a decent meal at the tour, right? Next day you take off. Where do you go next, Maren?
Where did we go? It was.
We went to Long Point Cove. We didn't check in with the Canadian authorities that first year.
That was.
Skip that part.
That was wait. Are we telling?
Went to Long Point Cove.
I know, but are we telling the? Mind.
No,
Yeah,
not yet.
So you went to Long Point Cove. What's at Long Point Cove, Todd?
That's just a nice remote anchorage. You know, the nice thing about the North Channel is there's lots of protected bays. The water's deep, so it can get windy and rough, but there's a lot of natural harbors, you would say. Pulled in, nosed up to a rock, tied off, and, got off the boat, went exploring.
Other people there?
There were.
Another number of other boats?
There was
Power boats, sailboats?
Mostly sailboats. No, there's probably about 7 or 8 boats. In respectful of other space. So even if you're in a protected harborage and stuff like that, people aren't blasting radios. They're not being quiet or they're not being loud. So people are generally respectful of your privacy and space.
And Todd, again, this was your first trip to them. Were you kind of by now, oh wow?
It's spectacular. Like, it's
Just
geography you've never seen before.
Describe it generally.
Just, basically glacier cut hard rock, so very deep water, steep cliffs, but it's mostly smooth rock. It's just spectacular scenery.
You've got a limited amount of time to do this, Tim, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got some stops. What are the must-sees? When you're now on your second night,
Mm-hmm.
what are the things you said, if I don't see anything else, the weather goes terrible, somebody gets sick, Todd Jones' gout gets bad, what do we have to see?
Well, again, I had been up there once 20 years prior, and the big memory that was the Benjamin Islands. And the Benjamins are pink granite, and they're all rounded from years of erosion. I'm sure the granite was deposited by a glacier a billion years ago. And it's spectacular. And come to find out, as we've learned now, that the Benjamin Islands are kind of like the Manhattan of the North Channel. Everybody goes there. So we went there once, and then we've since found other places nearby, particularly Fox Island, which is north of the Benjamins, which is probably prettier, much harder to get into. And
What do you mean hard to get into? How describe that?
The channel is very tricky, and the first year we went, a guy we all know, Fred Krieger, who actually has sailed when the dinosaurs were roaming the earth, gave me his North Channel guide. Had like little penciled notes in here and there, about cautionary tips of getting into and out of a harbor. And today with modern electronics, I've got a nav app on my phone, as does Todd, which is just as accurate as anything on any Navy. It's incredible how accurate it is. So having said that, someone's still got to drive the boat and someone still has to keep a lookout. And getting into the Fox Islands, it's a very, very narrow channel and there's a lot of zigging and zagging. And if you zag instead of zig, you hit a rock. And we didn't hit any rocks.
Which is not good.
No.
So, yeah, no soft sandy bottoms to run onto.
No.
All rock.
It's all rock.
All rock. And so you're in the Benjamins.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do when you get here? What's the fascination of all this for non-cruisers, other than the scenery?
Well, we all love sailing. So, our trip consists of a series of daily short trips from, where we were to where we're going. That first year, particularly, we had a couple. Like a friend of ours recommended Long Point. We stopped off at a place called John's Island, which somebody else had recommended to us. We didn't really know, so we kind of looked at a chart. We figured out, okay, well, we want to, travel 4 or 5 hours a day. You get someplace. The very first thing you do is secure the boat, because it might be a pretty nice day, but if a storm comes up, you don't want to be getting washed up on the rocks the next morning, which happened to us once, almost.
Oh.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm not a tree hugger sort of guy. I'm a city, but you get up there and it's just you're overwhelmed by the majesty, I guess, of Mother Nature and all the scenery, and you just see some things you don't see around here. The topography is that different from Michigan.
You girls were 12 first trip, 12, 13,
Yeah, 12,
something like that?
Mm-hmm.
You're a little different age, I know. So what's your reaction to all of this? What do you do during the day?
Well, I mean, the worst part of it, I guess, would have to be, I mean, not like the worst, longest thing to get used to was probably the time getting in between the locations, like the 4 or 5 hour traveling. And normally we'd play cards or read or, we got creative, but it was definitely hard to get used to being in one location just traveling for that long of time.
Just the getting from here to there was the boring part, if there's a boring part.
Tedious. Yeah.
Tedious, that's a good word. Olivia, you agree?
Yeah, we read a lot. We were both
So
really
you
good into
were
reading.
bright enough to bring along lots of books.
Yeah, and we usually just talked on top of the boat and just looked around. It was really cool, looking around when you're going from place to place. So, at least you had something to look at.
When you got back, or let's go back, before you left, what friends think? They think you're out of your minds?
Yeah, when I told them that I was going to be up north sailing around for 9 days, they were like, what are you doing? But, they don't really understand, and, everything that goes on up there and all the memories.
And Maren, what do they think when you get back?
They were like, well, what did you do up there? And I was like, well, obviously we did a lot of sailing and had plenty of stories to tell. And I talked about Topaz Lake, I think, because that was one of the more interesting bits. But because a lot of my friends do sail, so they're like, oh yeah, that'd be great. And then some of my friends are like, why would you go on a boat for a week? That's crazy. I was like, no, it was fine, but it was definitely a reaction. It depends if you've come from a background of sailing or not.
Sure. You mentioned Topaz Lake, and everybody that I've talked to of the four of you has mentioned Topaz Lake. Take the first cut about telling me about Topaz Lake, Todd.
Well, first of all, you go down the only natural fjord in North America, Bay of Fin, and at the end of it there's a place called the Pool. It's difficult to anchor, a lot of seaweed. But we did have a dinghy with us, which we brought up to the island before we left on the trip. So anchored, you can explore with the dinghy. People had told us about Topaz Lake. It's tricky to find if you don't know where it is.
I'd never heard of Topaz Lake. Had you?
Yes.
Okay.
It was mentioned before we left for the trip.
Okay.
So I guess it's one of the North Channel.
I'm sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead.
So Tim had gotten some bad coordinates from an associate down here, so we went in the dinghy,
3 hours.
anchored it. It wasn't the nicest of days, and went exploring for Topaz Lake with these bags. We ended up marching through a bog, found the biting black flies, so we're all covered in head dresses. I mean, the flies were big enough to make your head bleed if they bit you. And then we got back in the dinghy, obviously failed in our mission, went to the other side of the pool, and they talked to somebody and said, oh, no, 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 you see that little dock over there? You go over there, you tie up, but don't tie up to the dock because that's a private dock, so just beach the boat next to it and then you'll find the path. And there are some small signs to find your way to Topaz Lake.
How far back is it after you leave the pool?
2 miles?
No, I was saying a mile and a half, 2 miles.
Yeah.
It's
But the way you went, it was 10.
Correct.
easily, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we were, prior to getting over to the trail, we were flaying through this bog, and I mean, we had towels and stuff on, and I think the girls looked like little terrorists because they had them towels wrapped around their head to keep the black flies out. And Todd said there's signs up there. As I recall, there's one sign, which I think we missed the first time. But at one point, we went up a steep incline that was the wrong, the opposite direction of going to Topaz Lake. And this is kind of gross, but I saw like some animal poop there. And I took a picture of it with my camera, and then later on with my phone camera, and when I got near the internet, which, by the way, you get coverage all the way through the North Channel except in the pool and near Topaz. Most of it's pretty well covered by 3G. So I Googled it, and I typed in bear poop, hit images, and
There you are.
I was like, oh my God. So I was standing in close proximity to North Channel. And so that wasn't where Topaz was. And when we finally found it, you come over a rise, and it's surrounded by, I don't know, limestone or some light-colored rock. And I thought the angels were, it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. It was absolutely
So you
stunning.
come over this rise, and dramatically it's there before you,
Exactly. That's exactly how it happened.
and there's nothing on the lake. There aren't any cabins, any camp. It's there.
It's there.
Nature.
Yeah.
Tell me about the lake itself. What's it like? What's the water like?
Brisk.
Well, we were told, yeah, it's brisk. I had never heard of Topaz Lake until we were on the cruise, and somewhere along our travels, somebody had said you have to go see Topaz Lake. It's not on most charts, any charts. It wasn't on our phones. It wasn't on the paper charts. It wasn't on the GPS charting system that's on the boat. And we had told it had, mystical, natural healing powers, and I'm not really sure the guy, so I didn't really believe that. But we were told that it had a very high pH or acid content, and nothing grew, no fish, no moss, no algae. And climbing down like rocks to go into the water, you didn't slip and fall because of the slime, because there was none. Refreshing.
Hard to imagine.
It is.
I think the key is the contrast in color. So you've got these limestone, quartz, white cliffs raising up, and the watercolor is pretty much of a sapphire, almost like the color of Tim's. It's
Except
incredible.
brighter.
Yeah, that's pretty.
But brighter.
Mm-hmm.
Did you swim there?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Was a bath? Took a bath?
Yeah.
No soap?
No,
I
we
mean-
weren't allowed to bring any.
You didn't need it either. It was just it's because it's acidic. It would just kind of your skin was definitely sort of, I wouldn't say squeaky, but that
You were
could
clean.
be used. Yeah, it was definitely different.
Wow. And can you see down into the water?
For a while you can, when you first go in you can kind of box, but as you get deeper and deeper it's just straight blue water, and that's it.
Todd, you were saying earlier that there are trees that fall in this water hundreds of years ago, and
They sit there. They
They
don't
sit there.
decompose.
because of the acidic content of the water, there's nothing that
And
can
there's
stick to
nothing.
them.
There's no biology there to back them, so what happens there stays there.
Wow.
But people have done a very good job of maintaining it. There's no trash. There's no
Thank
anything.
goodness.
Yeah, it looks the
Thank
same way
goodness.
it did hundreds of years ago.
Pretty enough that you were anxious to see it again on this, Olivia?
Yeah, it was like a must-see. Like, it took a while to find it again. Still, we get
The
lost
second time.
every time.
You love the flies?
No,
They're not nice, are
they're
they?
not nice
They
at all.
carry you away.
No, but at least we went to like the right part of the pool the second time.
Well, it sounds like Topaz Lake was a high point, if
Yes.
not the high
Absolutely,
point.
yeah.
Both trips. Where'd you go after the pool?
Well, the pool is kind of the end of the trip, and really that's, in my mind, I like to optimize the amount of time we spend in the North Shore. And then, so from the pool, it's really, from there it's the delivery home. And, maybe we can step back a little bit in the trip and talk about a couple of the other things.
Please
There's,
do.
I mentioned earlier the Whalesback Channel, and that's probably south, the one is just south of Long Point Cove, which is where we spent the first night. And I had never been to the Whalesback Channel, nor had Todd, and that was one of the places that many people recommended. And honest to God, it's like being on another planet, because you have these little, sometimes they're just little spits of rock sticking up, other times they're somewhat more substantial. Some are smooth, some are rough, and they've got, I don't know if it's iron stains, but stains from the water, different water levels over the years. And what happens is it's channel, and as you head east in your north of the North Channel, because there's a row of islands there, you come to a little strait called Little Detroit, and Detroit is French for strait, and the city of Detroit is on a strait, and there's a little strait here. And, you know, we're used to in Lake St. Clair sailing in 10, 11, 14 feet of water. Well, up there you're in, you know, 80, 90, 100, 180 feet of water. So if you see the water drop, you get nervous. And we were going through there, and it's literally very narrow. I don't, 100 feet wide at the narrowest spot, if that.
Yeah, probably twice the width of this room. Not very wide.
And we go from 160 feet to 27 feet. It's like, oh my God, you're panicking because you're in 27 feet of water. And so I imagine that we're kind of flying, and instead of air, the atmosphere is flying through the mountains, and we've come to a spot, a little gap in the peaks, and we're going through it. So in terms of scenery, that and Bay Fin are probably the two most spectacular points. It was after that we went to the Benjamins, and I described that as being the pink granite Manhattan. And then we went to probably the real Manhattan of the North Channel, a town called Little Current.
Yeah.
And that's where you get gross hot showers, fresh ice, ice cream.
That didn't work out.
Fuel.
The ice cream didn't work out. We tried it.
Well, it worked out okay.
It lasted maybe a couple hours.
The refrigeration wasn't the best on Fast Tango.
It was all right, just not enough for ice cream.
I got it. I got it.
And that's also where the headquarters for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Waterways Security Division is at, which I never heard of until we met them in the Benjamins.
You had, to get in a lot of detail here, Tim, but you had a recurring theme here of kind of forgetting to check in with governmental authorities along the way.
Well, that was the first trip, and our intentions were actually to, my understanding, and again, I didn't do an extensive amount of homework on this, but my understanding is that the Canadian government will not let you check in via cell phone. You need to do a hard line at one of their ports, and so we'd been to Canada, but we hadn't been any place that had a hard line. So my intention all along was to check in at Little Current, and the Canadian government doesn't look at it that way. They think if you're going to visit Canada, you need to check in first, which is why in subsequent trips we now do that. So they actually boarded us while we were tied up in the Benjamins and asked us to break out ID, and it was at that moment that my passport and passport were sitting on my desk at home where I left them. So. But they were very nice, they were very understanding. It was very, very benign and very friendly police encounter, and at the end of the visit with them, they checked us in, and they actually gave us a couple extra days. They said, when are you leaving? They said, we'll give you it a Monday, just in case. I was like, great.
Very good.
They loved us.
If you had a few words in a little bit of time we have left, and any of you can check in here, if you had a few words of advice to anybody considering a trip to the North Channel time, what would those words be?
Stock up on food.
Stock up on food.
I would just say to expect the unexpected.
And lots of books.
And
Lots of books. Okay. Todd?
I think the biggest tips we got were from people in there.
Sure.
So, you can, just like we did, look at the chart, figure out your route, and figure out all the high points you want to hit. Make sure you get a lay day for bad weather. And whatever, just go do it. That's what we finally did.
Yeah, Tim?
Go.
Just go.
Go.
Okay. If you're going back, are you going back again this year? Is that the plan?
Yes. Yes.
You're all kind of a little more enthusiastic than you were the first time, Olivia?
Yes, for sure.
Of all the things you've seen, or not busy on your earlier trips, what do you want to see this time?
Definitely Topaz again.
Okay. Maren?
I'll get back to you on that.
Okay. Tim?
Certainly Topaz Lake, but we've also tried to make a habit of finding new. So each time we go, we go one or two new places, and then we drop a couple off. And it's hard to do because every place is nice. And I know, Todd, you started to talk about Bay Fin, which is been described as the only natural fjord in America.
Right.
And if you want to continue that,
It's spectacular because you've got these sheer cliff walls, and they actually paint the buoys for the channel markers on the cliff wall. So you're, you know, motoring in 50 feet of water, and 8 feet to your right is a sheer cliff. So
No room for the
definitely-
buoys.
Right.
No other place to put them.
Yeah, there's no place to tie them off to.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a highlight.
So you'll leave after the Mackinac race this year
yes,
and straight to Detour.
straight to Detour, and then we'll go up to Hilton Beach to check in. And you know, it's because I went the year afterwards with a different group because Todd and Olivia weren't able to make it, and we went to Hilton and checked in, and it's like, I typed, I gave them like the first 3 numbers, my MC number. It's like, oh, Mr. Prophit, is your daughter Maren with you? Are the Joneses with you? So they have us in there. So
You're in the database.
which is fine because the check-in process to Canada is painless. And yes, you have to go someplace where there's a hard line. Okay, we do that, and but it's a quick phone call.
We're fortunate.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. Yeah.
Let you off the hook. What do you want to see again, or what do you want to see that you haven't seen?
I always like going to new places, especially just because it's nice to go somewhere you haven't been before. And normally if you go somewhere new that a lot of people don't generally go to, there's not a lot of people, so you have the whole place to yourself. But there we go to that we kind of dubbed Murder Spurred Island. That's always quite fun to go to. And it's just these 2 little islands, and there's almost no one there every time. Last time I went, there was maybe 1 other boat there. And it's nice because it's like the rock, and you can walk the whole island, and it's really interesting to see.
That's a great place to leave it. Could I get the 4 of you to come back again and tell me about North Channel 2013?
Absolutely.
You bet.
Great. Olivia, Maren, Todd, thank you for being with us on Great Lakes Log. Thank you for being with us. We'll look for you next time right here.